Here, okay. Hello and welcome once again to this webinar, this DIH² webinar. This one is about interface design and usability put on by DIH². I'm Álvaro Parejo, I'm project manager at Easy Accelerator. And in this webinar, I'm going to introduce you to the network, DIH² network, and our purpose. Then I'm going to take you through the resource we are offering to you as part of the DIH² services, which are free online courses about technological and digital skills, designed to be useful for SMEs and individuals working in manufacturing and robotics. Then I'm going to hand it over to Jason, who is our guest expert and creator of our course, Interface Design and Usability. And he's going to take you through key points and to know about this topic. When he's done, we'll have time for questions and answers. So, let's get started. DIH² believes in the power of robotics to transform the agility of manufacturing and SMEs and to drive economic growth across the European Union. Our role is to facilitate the connections that enable agile productions in factories, where speed and versatility are essential to satisfy customer demand. Originally funded by Horizon 2020, the European Union Research and Innovation Programme tasked with bringing great ideas from lab to market. We aim to generate innovation that maximize productivity and optimize agility manufacturing SMEs and mid-cap across the European Union. In addition, our goals include improving the cost effectiveness of advanced robotic solutions and driving growth of the robotic market. We already have a large and growing ecosystem of organizations that have joined our network. If you are interested in learning more about joining, you can visit dih/squared.eu. Here in the next one, the DH, let me check here. The DIH² network is managed by a number of different partners from across Europe and each playing a different role. As I said before, I'm from ISDI, a business school for the digital era based in Spain. And our role is to provide training courses that are currently open and free for everyone to access. Here you can see the targets and goals, and the objectives of the courses are, as you can see, we aim to introduce users in the European manufacturing sector to new technologies and ways of work, to teach how to implement those ways of working and to ultimately support the update of innovation on manufacturing SMEs across Europe. In this slide, you can view our courses via our online platform, dih/squared.mooc.run.eu, and you can browse the entire catalog without registering. But if you would like to take a course, you will need to create an account in order to access all didactic materials. Here you can see that we have a number of courses specifically focused on the technology related to manufacturing and robotics. And in the next slide, you can see here in this one, you can see better an overview of what we have on this list about topics and experts of these courses. Here in the next one, in addition, we have a wide range of courses about digital skills aimed to help you bring your knowledge into the modern world. And the topics covered include agile methodology, data-driven marketing, and interface design, usability, and much more. All of our courses feature video, text, slides, and graphic in interactive learning experience. And many courses also allow you to test your knowledge at the end with self-assessments. The length of time it takes to complete a course can vary from between 1 hour or less up to 10 hours, depending on the topic. Again, in the next slide here, you can see the link where you can access to the platform which is dih/square.mooc.grum.eu. And then now that we have introduced the program and the webinars, here now I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker for today is Jason Cranford, and he's a design and creativity consultant. He's a writer and a speaker who has written numerous books and articles about digital design and creativity. His books include the best-selling CSS Visual Quick Start Guide and Final Cut Pro and the Art of Filmmaking. He's with us today to talk about interface design and usability, and we are very glad to have him here. So thank you, Jason, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the great introduction. Okay. Get everything out of the way. Hi, my name is Jason Cranford. I actually have a double-barreled last name. Cranford. My wife was Cranford, I was Teague, and we decided to combine last names, but no hyphen or anything like that. I'm the founder of Cranford Digital Strategy, specializing in UX advice and strategy and planning for especially focused on the educational industry, but I work with a lot of different industries as well. Today, I'll be providing an overview of my ISDI class, Interface Design and Usability. Hold on a second, let me start my camera back up. If I could, hold on, I'm gonna have to back out real quick. Let me do that. It's a polite thing to do. Or maybe it's not gonna let me. Let me just do that real quick. And then, yep, there we go. Video's back on. Share my screen again. And presto. Okay, there you go. All right, so as mentioned, I'll be providing an overview of my ISDI class, Interface Design and Usability. But let me start by telling you a little bit about my 30-year journey as an experienced design professional, dealing with interface design and usability on a pretty constant basis. I started back in 1995 in web design when I was a student at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, where I actually designed the first online magazine, the Computer Mediated Communications magazine. By the late 1990s, I was working for a now defunct web agency called IXL, where I designed the first version of WebMD. In the 2000s, I was a creative director for AOL Red, which was AOL's teen website, where I worked on the first online comic book reader. And this was about a year before Comixology, the bigwig in the market now, came online. If I only had thought to get that patented, I'd probably be much more wealthy than I am now. I worked at Marriott for a while, where I helped them relaunch the Marriott.com homepage. After that, I founded and led the Creative Academy at Capital One Bank. Capital One is a major bank in the United States. And I was responsible for the onboarding and professional development of designers at the company. Most recently, I was at Capgemini working on several exciting projects, such as the online tutoring service, Chiron. And now I've started my own digital consulting agency specializing in experience design strategy, training, and giving general UX advice on an ad hoc basis for companies that may not have their own VP of UX, but may need something like that every now and then. In that time, I've written numerous books on digital design and creativity, including the CSS3 Visual Quick Start Guide and Speaking in Styles. Most recently, I took a stab at writing a children's book about Yuri Gagarin, the first person in space. As I mentioned, this webinar is an overview of my course offered by ISDI. The goals of the course are to help you understand how the experience design of a website or app is everybody's job, not just the designers. Understand the UX design process and how our best tool is iteration to help us test and refine ideas. Understand how knowing the audience of a website or app will help you make the right decisions based on their needs. Understand how to design and prototype a website or app to answer what-if questions. Answer those questions now rather than in development where it gets a lot more expensive. Understand why usability and accessibility for all websites and apps is critical to success beyond just thinking about people who have physical and cognitive differences. So let's take a look at what we cover. When we are talking about interface design, we are focusing on the user's experience with the user interface. This is often referred to as user experience design, abbreviated UX, or sometimes just experience design, abbreviated XD. User experience design is the bedrock of all interface design. Donald Norman, the man who coined the phrase user experience while he was at Apple Computer in the late 1980s to early 1990s, has said, user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. This is because the user experience directly affects how they feel about your company as a whole. They may love your content, but if your app is difficult to navigate, it directly affects how they feel about your company. So, what is experience design? First, although the visual design is part of it, it is not the only or necessarily the most important part of it. It is important to show your brand and voice, but it does not guarantee a good experience. The main focus of experience design is about being clear to the user about what your product is for, whether it be a mobile app or website, and how your audience will interact with it to achieve their goals. Understanding this is how you shape the user's experience with the product and your organization to ensure that they achieve their goals with as little effort as possible. And this is critical to your product and even your organization's success. There are many reasons a customer might not be loyal to a particular service or product. But Harvard Business Review reports that 96% of customers who expend high effort into service interactions are disloyal. But when customers expend a low effort, only 9% are disloyal. I doubt anyone will find it strange that if your product is hard to use, no one will want to use it. Negative experiences cost you money. This may be invisible, though, since poor experience can be hidden by many factors, like people who are required to use your product by their own organization. But then that loss of money is usually borne by that other organization through loss of productivity. The user interface is only what we see on the surface. This is the visual and interactive components that we spend a lot of time and money on designing and planning. However, underneath the UI is the user's experience with that design. And this is what actually matters to the person using your product. It might be big, bright, and beautiful, but if it's difficult to use, then the UI isn't doing its job. Donald Norman says, that he invented the term because he thought human interface and usability were too narrow. I wanted to cover all aspects of the person's experience with the system, including industrial design graphics, the interface, the physical interaction, and the manual. Although Norman didn't coin the term until the late 1980s, the ideas behind user experience have been around for well over a century. So let me explain what goes into making a good user experience. First, is to understand the user's goals and how you can reduce the friction between the task someone wants to accomplish and the tool they're using to complete that task. The user interface is the tangible product that creates the space where interaction between humans and machines occurs. This then creates the intangible service of the user's experience. This is how your product works for your customers and how they feel about it. So let's look at these, at what each of these means. The user goal is when we think about product design, we need to consider that the user's goal. What are they trying to achieve? And then the user interface is the working product that will be applied to achieve that goal. And then this creates the user experience, which is how successfully the user can achieve their goals with the user interface. Let me give you a quick example, a case study. Let's think about a common experience and how it works. And that is simply listening to music. What is the user's experience of listening to recorded music? Let's look at 3 different user interfaces used to achieve that same goal. The first, the user's goal is on all 3 case studies, listening to music and then being able to play high fidelity music anytime, anywhere. That's the optimal outcome. Now let's consider how we fulfill that user goal with the different user interfaces and how that affects the user's experience. The first interface is the record and record player. These deliver on the first goal of high quality sound, but a record player has limited portability and you are limited to access of only the records you have at your immediate disposal, which could be bulky to store and are of course fragile. So it gives you a high quality sound, but limited portability and limited access. Next, we have a CD player, which gave quality sound, arguably lower than the record, but with much greater portability. And although easier to store than records, you're still limited to the discs in your immediate possession. So you get quality sound pretty much anywhere, but limited access to all the music you might want to listen to. Finally, we have digital file and digital decoder. This has provided quality music virtually anywhere. At first, you were limited to the number of songs you could store on the device. This could be quite large, much larger than a CD, but now with streaming, you can listen to virtually any song ever recorded. It's no wonder that the digital music industry has really taken off. People can listen to any song anywhere at any time. Interestingly, though, a lot of people do like the user experience of records, oftentimes with the argument that it's of higher quality. And even more bizarrely to me, though, is the recent rise in tape cassettes. I didn't mention that one. I skipped straight to CDs, but I haven't heard a lot about CDs coming back. Something to watch to figure out why people prefer those user experiences over the digital music. So what makes a good UI? To achieve their goals, users expect that the user interface should meet certain criteria. First, it should be useful. It should allow them to achieve their goals. Next, it should be learnable and memorable. This not only means learning your interface, but allowing the user to make use of UI patterns and knowledge they've gained from other sites that they've learned, rather than having to relearn your site every time. Next, it should be effective and efficient, not only meeting their needs, but doing so as quickly as possible. Finally, it should be desirable and delightful. It shouldn't be a chore that leaves them feeling tired, but a relief when they're finished. Beyond the interface, though, their experience should deliver value. That is, it should get them something that they can't get from anywhere else. Work efficiently for them. That is, rather than being something that they have to relearn every time, it should be something they can simply act on without having to figure out the interface. And this flows into, it should be intuitive and easy to learn. It shouldn't require them to adapt to your product. The product should be better at adapting to them. Finally, it should support decision-making. That is, not only give them the information they need to make the decision, but allow them to feel confident that they are making the right decisions with your product. And then it should be appealing and attractive. It should be something that they enjoy using at a visceral level, at a visual level. It can oftentimes be fun, but it should always meet their needs in the context that they are currently in. But the biggest thing that makes for good UX is the one that designers have the least control over. It should work. All of the user research, design thinking, and interface design work can never make up for products that do not work the way they were designed. And this comes down to product development and how it is coded. The most important thing I want you to take away from this talk today is that great experiences are everybody's job. If everyone on the product team, that includes managers and coders and QA and everybody else who is working on this product, if they are not all focused on creating great experiences for your audiences, then you need to rethink how you approach your product design and development. Developers are key to ensuring that the product works as designed. There's a lot that can go wrong that will sabotage even the best designs. Slow loading pages, meaningless error messages, inconsistent user interfaces, and products simply crashing can cause anxiety that diminishes the user's experience. To better understand interface design and usability, let's take a look at the general experience design process. Like many processes that strive to innovate, the process should start with questions. If you're a fan of Dr. Who, you may have heard him quip, "Answers are easy. It's asking the right questions, which is hard." Answers are often obvious in design if you are asking the right questions, but sometimes finding the right questions is tricky. And it's also important to note that not all the answers to those questions can be found during the design phase. Many may require product development before the question can be fully understood. The first question is so simple it is often overlooked. What is needed? In a rush to make our initial ideas a reality, we may often forget to answer this key question, which we need 3 other questions to be able to answer. First, we need to consider what is desirable to our audience. Is this meeting an actual need? Can we shift our initial ideas to something the user finds desirable? Next, you need to determine why or how it can be viable to your organization. Do we have to make it? Can we afford not to make it? Do we have the talent to make it? Consider every aspect of whether you concede and what the benefits are. Finally, is your idea feasible from a technical aspect? What technology is available? Do you have too much technological debt to make this idea a reality? Oh, sorry, forgot to hit. So that is a business case. Finally, is your idea feasible from a technical aspect? What technology is available? Do we have too much technological debt to make it a reality? Is a question that the developers can answer. And this intersection between these questions is where you will find not only what is needed, but also how to make it happen. There are a lot of ways describing the experience design process, but they all break down to 5 major steps. Researching what is needed, what is possible, and what others are doing. Taking that research into insights and possible innovations. Defining a clear vision on what is being created and what success will look like when finished. Turning that vision into concrete concepts through design and prototyping. And then developing the concept into the final product. Although the experience design portion seems to apply only to the first 4 steps, development is where the interface design is actually made to work. And it's imperative that the UX designers are not left out at this point, but serve an oversight role to ensure the vision is carried through to the end. Across these 5 steps is a wide variety of activities, often with their own specific sub-processes. And although presented here in a linear fashion, one key to a successful product is iteration. I have never seen a successful project follow each step one at a time. Often while fleshing out the vision, additional research is needed, which then has to go into the insight so that it can be brought into the vision. Sometimes the vision falls short in development and must be reconsidered and integrated into the concept before development can continue. So who does the experience design work? Over the years, there have been many job titles used to describe experienced designers and many subcategories under each. To make matters more complex, the job titles can also vary greatly from company to company. Instead of deluging you with job titles, let's talk about the specific skills a UX designer might have. First is research, allowing the experienced designer to evaluate current products and define who will be using your product. Testing allows them to evaluate products for how effective they are for the audience. Information architecture is the ability to design the overall flow of a product and define how users will best succeed with it. Content strategy ensures that the text, photos, illustrations, and videos are as effective as possible. Visual design is the overall appeal of the site, bringing in the branding guides and creating a voice for your product. Interaction design goes beyond the initial visual impression and focuses on the user, how the user communicates with the digital product. Now, keep in mind that few experienced designers will have all of these skills. In fact, they're so rare that we refer to them as unicorns in the industry. Instead, many will specialize in one or a very few of these skills, allowing them to produce more in-depth and refined results. Before you can understand what your audience needs, first you need to understand who they are. Audience research is key to that understanding. I'm gonna skip through this one. I'm a little bit less time than I thought, and that was just an example. Another quote from my favorite, Dr. Who. I have never met an unimportant person, and every person using our products should be treated as such. Every one of them is important. So designers have developed what we call human-centered design to help us always keep the humanity of our users in sight. What the people using our products use them for, how they feel, what they like. We talk to them as often as possible while we are creating to gain insights and get feedback. We don't let them dictate what we do, but rather we use that information to guide our decisions. And UX is not just the designer's job. In reality, we have to share the role with everyone else working on the product if we want to make it successful. Every person in there needs to have a human-centered process, whether they're developers, project managers, or anybody else on the team. So never assume people can tell what they need, only what they want. It's not enough to ask them, what do you need? We have to, designers take that information and then piece it together from various users, various sources to figure out what is really needed, not just what they tell us they need. So we want to find out, how do they work now? How do they do the process we're asking about, or a similar one now? What are their workarounds? What are they doing to get the job done that may not be as efficient as what we can come up with? What are they really trying to achieve? You might ask the person, I want to go I want to have my groceries delivered. But really what it is they don't really want to have to think too much about grocery shopping and going grocery shopping. So that might lead us to solutions that help alleviate the burden of constantly having to go grocery shopping. And then what is the optimal outcome for them? What does success look like to them if our product does what we want it to do? The designs and prototypes are the architectural blueprints for what gets built. When most people think of interface design, this is what they are really thinking of. IDEO, a company well known for their great designs, has a saying: if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Being able to see and play around with the product before it is built allows us to test and refine our solutions better than we could in any meeting, and much more cost effectively than if we are iterating during the development phase. The nature of design is changing as developers are adapting at the agile process, and designers are adapting to lean UX, discarding many of the cumbersome and time-consuming and difficult to iterate techniques we have used in the past. Rather than creating detailed wireframes and pixel-perfect visual comps, more and more designers are moving into high-fidelity prototyping for interactive design. So instead, they create fast sketches of wireframes and sitemaps and user flows, and then prototype the visual and interactive designs in the native format, whether it's for an app or for the web. We do this more quickly to answer what-if questions, to test out ideas before committing them to the unforgiving world of the developmental code. This allows them to gain participation from non-designers and generate more ideas that may bear fruit. They also use them to better communicate their ideas to their team and clients, and to validate the ideas before they go into development. The outcome is a more clearly defined and tested plan for developers to work from. According to Tom Gilb, who wrote the book Principles of Software Engineering Management, once a system is in development, correcting a problem costs 10 times as much as fixing the same problem in design. If the design has been released, it costs 100 times as much relative to fixing the design. So a very strong economic incentive for doing more design and getting the design right before it goes into development. If an interface is not usable and accessible, it will fail. But all media have limitations for communication that present usability and accessibility challenges, and digital media is no different. What makes a product truly usable is when you use it, you don't have to think about using it. It simply works for you. The man who coined this phrase, "Don't make me think," it's the title of his book on user experience design. And if you read only one book on usability this year, make it this one. Steve Krug says, After all, usability really just means making sure that something works well, that a person of average or even below average ability and experience can use the thing, whether it's a website, a fighter jet, or a revolving door, for its intended purpose without getting hopelessly frustrated. Usability isn't a step in design, it is an integral part of every step in the design process. From research to development, every team member should understand what will make your digital product usable and make every decision based on that. Just a quick reminder that poor usability will cost you money. Although how to create a usable product can be challenging, understanding what makes an interface usable is relatively simple. First, can the user complete the task successfully and as quickly as possible? Next, are they satisfied with the result? And third, have they had to think as little as possible to get there? The more they've had to think, usually the worse the experience. Beyond usability, though, is accessibility. If poor usability is a barrier to success, poor accessibility is a barrier to entry. Many digital professionals I encounter seem to think that accessibility is an SEP or somebody else's problem. It's not their problem. Somebody else will worry about accessibility. But they are under the misconception that it is only a small market of people with disabilities. And that's just simply not the case. But inaccessible websites can leave as much as $175 billion on the table, and that's just in the US. And there's another reason inaccessibility will cost you money. The true cost of inaccessible digital products is decided by the courts. As laws around accessibility are coming from the US, Europe, and around the world, we will see more interest in holding governments and companies accountable. This often takes the form of very expensive lawsuits. In March 2023, the US Department of Justice reported 390 new accessibility lawsuits had been filed, and that was in March alone. 75 of those lawsuits were against defendants who had already previously been sued. In fact, disabilities are contextual, and everybody will experience some disability throughout their life, if not on a daily basis. They may be permanent, but they also might be temporary and situational. For example, you might have a permanent hearing problem, which means you're deaf. I myself have a permanent hearing problem in my right ear. So I'm not fully deaf, but I have problems hearing with my right ear. You might have a temporary one through an ear infection, or you might have a situational one. For example, a bartender in a very crowded and noisy atmosphere. It's important, though, to see accessibility not as a problem some people have, but a problem we all encounter at some point or another. So let's talk about the most common accessibility problem, which is being on a mobile device. In addition to what we commonly think of as accessibility is the fact that creating accessible products has a profound effect on anyone using a mobile device. You see, the difference between a desktop or laptop computer and a mobile device may simply seem like the difference in screen size, but it actually has more to do with the context those devices are used in. Accessibility on a computer might feel like scuba diving with a full tank, while mobile accessibility can feel more like snorkeling. Mobile devices not only reduce the size of the screen, but also allow us to take the device anywhere and everywhere. We use our mobile devices often in very different contexts when we do the computer. This means we have to pay special attention to cognitive load, the person's ability to deal with complex information, and opportunity cost, their willingness to engage in a lengthy process to get what they want. For example, consider booking a hotel. If I'm planning a vacation and I'm using my laptop computer, I'm relaxed and I'm sitting and I can look for the best price. I can search here, I can search there, I can go to multiple services. I can go to TripAdvisor, I can go to Airbnb, I can go to all sorts of places. But if I'm standing on the streets of New York City without a hotel room for the night at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be a lot more urgent in my task. I'm not going to want to spend a lot of time comparing. I want a hotel room and I want it as quickly and cheaply as possible. So let's sum everything up. First, interface design is more than colors, fonts, and wireframes. Remember, it's about the experience that the person is, your user is going through. Bad experiences are going to cost you money in the long run, whether it is disloyal customers who stop using your product or disabled users who can't access it. Their experience, good or bad, drive your profits. To create great experiences, you have to know who you are creating for. Understand who you are designing for is the cornerstone to good products. We sketch, design, and prototype to answer what if, not how questions about the experience. Remember to ask the right questions before defining your solution. Finally, usability means it's simple to use, and accessibility means it's usable by anyone. So thank you very much. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, sure.
By the way, if you want to contact me, my company address is cramfatigue.com, and I'm on social media at mastodon.design/@Jason. So, I'm sorry, questions. What questions do you all have for me?
Gergely is giving you the thank you for your presentation. Maybe you can see the chat as I can see it.
Yeah, I've got it open on my iPad.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, as Jason said just now is the time for questions. If you have any question about his webinar or like the session he gave today, now is the moment. Ali, let me give you permission so you can speak. Here, I'm going to. There you go. Okay, now you can speak, and also you have to unmute yourself. There you go. Okay.
Yes, now I can mute it. Thank you very much, Jason. It was very nice presentation and very thoughtful, considering many different platforms, especially when you're designing websites and apps. I think they have to be designed in a very different way. I think you have been mostly the presentation and your work has been only related to the digital design, let's say, or let's say the usability of things, as you mentioned in the very beginning, like even a fighter jet. So it's about the placement of the handles, it's about how you grab the handle, like if you think about the cockpit of an aircraft or a car, or nowadays we are mostly working with the machines, robots, and in the factories. So have you been working on those sides also?
I don't do industrial design like that. I've been a digital designer. I was really early on. I did some print design, and really when I was in college, I was learning print design. But by the time I got out of college, I was doing purely digital design. But the principles remain the same, as they're all human-centered design. It's all okay. We start with the human. What do they need? And these principles, I specialize in the digital, but these principles are universal across all design fields. and they may be applied slightly different from here to there, but really one of the things I'm actually giving a talk at UX Camp in a couple of weeks in Chicago about why designers have to better understand the medium they're designing for. One issue I've had with a lot of my colleagues in the design community is they treat code like it was some sort of virus that they don't want to get their fingers dirty with. And I'm doing a talk called the case for high fidelity prototypes, because I for the last really 10 years, but even before that, but definitely for the last 10 years, I've done all of my designs in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because that's how they're going to be delivered. I shy away from Figma and Sketch and Adobe XD because really all you're doing there is you're kind of simulating what the website will look like and work like. But all of those tools, they're simulacra, they're faux. They don't really show you exactly how it's going to work. So, and the same is true, when I was in print design, I went and learned how the print, I went to the big, the print shop with the big German printing presses and learned how they work. And I learned a lot about, for example, ink and ink drying, so that, when I was creating my designs, it informed how I design, because I realized, oh, if I saturate this page with ink, it's probably going to smear and look bad. And then the same is true with industrial design. You have to understand the materials that are going to be used in your designs. You can't just, draw pretty pictures and expect the builder to make them happen. Is that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. I think that was very much what I was looking for.
Oh, and let me put in one more quick plug, self-promotion here. I'm going to be at the Web3 conference in London on June 1st, and I'm going to be talking about a design for human-centered design for Web3 and DApps at that conference. So if you're in London or in the area and you want to come to a good conference, the Web3 conference looks like it's going to be a pretty good one.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Ali, for your question, and thank you, Jason, for giving answer to it. I think we are running out of time now. Maybe if there is anybody that want to ask the last question, maybe we have time for that. If not, please, Jason, could you stop sharing your screen so I can share mine real quick, and I can show the last slides. Thank you. Let me check.
Thanks, everybody.
So yeah, that while I'm finishing these 2 slides that I have here ready, maybe you can write on the chat, or maybe get up your hand and we can solve the last question. But yeah, thank you very much, Jason, for coming today. Here are the next upcoming webinar that we have. The next one is from Ed, and he is going to give us a webinar about machine learning and AI getting started. And then here in the last one, you have a link to social media, so you can stay tuned for more webinars that are coming. We have a few more of them before ending this month, and then in June there will be no more webinars. So yes, thank you for coming today, and thank you, Jason, for that magnificent presentation. And thank you everyone for coming. It has been very great to have you here today. So yeah, I think we are finished. We have no more questions. Here in the chat you have the contact for Jason if you have any more questions that you can solve today. And yeah, thank you very much. I think we are finished today. Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Bye.